Welcome to episode 56 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I'm your host, Dave Ginsberg, and my guest this week, I guess returning guest, is Mike Potter from the For Mac Eyes Only podcast and the organizer of Mac Stock. How are you doing, Mike?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Dave?
Doing great. I think the last time we did a show together was when we were at the Apple Store last year. Was it been that long? Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. I love that episode.
Yeah, that was fun.
I actually just listened to it again the other day. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a blast. I was just sitting outside, all the fun things going past us, and we were just talking about Apple stuff. That's what we love so much here. So I was on vacation last week, so there was a skip in a week. That's why you didn't get an episode. So that's why we're here this week. And so, of course, I'm reviewing a lot of stuff that happened last week that I got to enjoy from afar, but that's okay. We can still talk about it because there's lots of stuff going on with Apple right now, just absolutely crazy stuff, including all the new releases they announced. Of course, I was on your show with the Reaction Time episode, so we had a lot of fun doing that, and we did react to a lot of stuff you already knew, right?
I think so, yeah. There wasn't a whole lot new with Apple having released all their hardware the week before. Yeah, so the new iPads, so I talked about that in the last episode, about the new iPads. We had those were released, and the new there was two iPads, of course the Macs, of course, and then I'm just having a brain cramp here. That was pretty much all the hardware they released. But it's going to be more exciting this year. There's going to be more stuff to come. So let's dig into this. So a couple of stories that caught my eye. Of course, they announced the News Plus app that incorporates the magazine service that Apple had purchased Texture last year, and the news here is that, of course, no surprise that the Texture service is going to be shuttered on May 28th. Of course, I'm sure you have no surprise of that either, right, Mike? No, not at all. In fact, I think that's kind of a sad side effect of the way the tech industry works these days, is buying up, the small companies and then shuttering them, right, versus allowing them to grow and become the best that they can be under new guidance and under new leadership. Right.
So we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk a little more about the News Plus and the News app after we get through some of these news stories. So, but that did happen. That was announced this week. So if anybody was a subscriber, you're going to just be moved over to News Plus. So, that's how it goes in this industry. So the other, I can say more amusing is probably a good word, with the Apple AirPower officially was canceled by Apple. I in all the years I've been talking and covering Apple, I never thought Apple would do something like this and just say, "Oh, okay, we give up. It doesn't meet our requirements." What was your thoughts on this canceling?
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can't take this long and then suddenly come out with a product that should have been incredibly simple for them to put out in the first place.
Right.
The second thing is I'm worried that this is a precursor for some other products that they talked about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that I do truly think that we're going to hear Apple say something very similar about the Mac Pro this year.
Yeah, let's hope. I know that's been excitement for you.
No, I don't hope. I want the Mac Pro to come out. I hope.
Yeah, I misspoke. That's what I meant. Yes.
I'm afraid that they're going to say that it didn't live up to their standards, and that, by the way, this iMac Pro is just a fantastic device, and you should use that instead. And we won't see the Mac Pro. But that's a conversation I actually have in the queue on my podcast. So.
Yeah. That'd be a good conversation. But it's just like iPads. I never thought that they would all of a sudden just come out with the iPad Air, and then they came out with the iPad Mini. And we'll talk a little bit about that, both those in a little bit here. But hearing people rave reviews about the iPad Mini. So, but yeah, I'm not surprised with the AirPower that they decided to just cancel.
Well, I thought the AirPower wasn't needed.
It wasn't needed. There's so many third-party devices out there as it is anyway.
Absolutely.
That they should have just stuck with that and been fine with it. So, sometimes you'll wonder. And then other news sort of caught my eye is Apple did do some updates to the iWork suite for iOS and macOS, and there was quite a significant update. They're saying some specifics were with the tablet experience and using the pencil, the Apple Pencil. They're giving an example as Keynote. You can use the pencil or your finger to draw in a direction to animate an object or a slide. The other iWork apps like News and Pages don't necessarily do anything special, but I guess Keynote was kind of the highlight. Do you use any of these on your iOS device like iPad or iPhone?
You know what? I don't. The only time I ever use Pages, Numbers, or Keynote, or let's be fair, Word or Excel or PowerPoint in iOS is when I'm just referencing a document that I've created or edited on my Mac. Okay. So typically it's more referential than it is to actually sit there and edit it. I have used the iPad to present Keynote presentations, but I wouldn't be creating the presentations on it. I find it a little too confining, but I will say that this draw a path with your finger to animate objects is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's really cool that they added some of the stuff, and more and more stuff that's being enhanced on the iPad is just makes the iPad even more of a valuable device to have. So I'll link in the show notes for all the things that did update for this. Moving on, they did release the first public beta of iOS 12.3. The developers haven't. I believe it's in public beta if it hasn't been released already. And that's interesting to see that they're going to continue to do some more updates to 12.3. And of course, we probably will anticipate that iOS 13 will come out and will get announced during WWDC in the summer. And it says, and it's saying here a lot of the information includes that there's some new UI for the Apple TV. Of course, they got to get ready for the Apple TV Plus service when that's released. So that's gonna be happening. But it looks like there isn't much to it right now, going from 12.2 to 12.3, like 12.2 was when that just came out. Of course, did you see anything that caught your eye on this?
I normally jump on updates right away, and I got a little burned. I'm sure you heard about this. I got a little burned with Mac OS 10.14.4 not authenticating properly to Google servers.
Yeah, that was happening iOS 12.2 as well.
Yeah, and so I had updated my iMac at the office to 10.14. I keep wanting to say 12.14, 10.14.4. And when that happened, I just stopped. And, that's not like me to do that. Normally, I'm jumping on all the updates all the time right away. Yeah. And as soon as that happened and I couldn't authenticate, and I realized that there was a rather large issue for Google users, which turns out to be somewhat of a combination problem on both Apple and Google's part. Eventually, it took Google to intervene to fix the issue, is my understanding of it. But anyway, as soon as that happened, I did not jump and update all my other devices. I specifically have my phone and my tablet set to not update automatically so that I can be a little bit more in control of it. But now that issue's been resolved, which it was resolved, I think, by Sunday. I think Sunday was the day they finally got that fixed.
Yeah.
I verified it's working on the iMac today. It's the first time I was at the office to check it. So I verified that was working, and I'll probably go ahead and update all my other devices right away as well.
Okay.
So no, I have not updated any of them yet, and I'm kind of itching to.
So are you talking about you haven't updated to 12.2?
I haven't done that either.
Oh.
No.
Oh, but you have some devices you put on beta as well, 12.3.
I do not.
Oh,
no.
Okay. So this was the beta they just came out with, is too. So I was talking.
No, 12.2 is out.
Yeah, 12.3 is what I was.
12.3 is the beta. Yeah,
that's the beta.
Right.
That was what I was talking about here.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. Yeah, but the issue with
both.
Google.
Yeah.
The issue with Google was also in 12.2, wasn't it? That's what I had heard.
That was, in 12.2. 12.3 was released not too far after it, but it's beta, of course. But and I always tell our listeners, proceed with caution with beta.
Yeah, 12.2 is the one I've not updated to.
Gotcha.
Because of the Google issue. I rely on Google services for quite a lot, actually.
Sure.
Almost all my professional services and then my personal services all use G Suite, the paid service. And then, of course, I have a number of Gmail accounts as well. And really, what's funny is everybody was noticing it with email.
Right.
And that's not where I noticed the problem, because I actually don't use the Apple Mail app, which was the only one that was really affected by the issue.
Right.
If you use third-party apps, you don't have a problem at all. Where I noticed the problem was with my contact syncing. My calendars were fine because Fantastical worked just fine, communicating directly with Google services. But the Contacts app and the Card Hop app that I use from the same folks who make Fantastical, they both depend upon the Apple authentication. And with that being broken, it effectively grounded me, really. I couldn't work with any of my contacts. I couldn't update anything. And that's when I just put the brakes on all the updates and said, all right, let's wait till this is resolved, and then I'll go ahead and do my other devices.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was quite a bug. I was kind of surprised. With everybody that's out there that's using Gmail, that I'm sure that affected a lot of people. But yeah. I'm glad they fixed it.
Fortunately, it's taken care of. Yep, all fixed.
Yeah. Speaking of another update fix, well, really, it wasn't a fix. Apple did release the Watch OS 5.2. I don't know if you updated your watch yet, but you may not have been able to because you're still on 12.1.
That's right. Yeah, I wasn't prompted with the update because I hadn't gone to 12.2 yet.
Right. So what this update incorporated was not much, other than that it was bug and performance updates, but it also expanded the US-centric features for ECG, the electrocardiogram, for other countries. So the feature is now available in 19 European countries as well as Hong Kong. And then they list a bunch of countries from Austria all the way to Finland, France, Norway, Romania, a bunch of, and UK, of course. And all European countries are now going to have access to the ECG. I love this ECG. You have a Series 3 watch, right?
I have a Series 3. Yeah.
So yeah, this feature is pretty slick on the Series 4 watch. So. That just make sure you check it in your Apple Watch app, and the update will come up, or it also prompts it. You'll see it come up, but to check that out. The other thing I noticed was Apple is actually going to sell an Anchor product. Are you a big user of Anchor products at all?
I am. I love Anchor products. Yeah.
I was surprised about this. It's now Apple stores are going to now be carrying an Anchor USB-C Power Core Fusion battery and charger. So you could charge your USB devices, which would be like if you want to charge your iPhone, or you can charge your iPad Pro, which is a USB-C, or you can charge your MacBook. And it's a plug that it's called the Power Core Fusion, and it serves both as a power adapter and a battery pack for the iPhone, iPad, and MacBooks. It's a 30-watt USB charger for charging, and it'll charge an iPad Pro and a MacBook with a standard USB-C cable. So, but being it's only 30 watts, looks like it's only going to really cover the smaller MacBooks. But still, this is a great. It's great to see that Apple is really expanding to other vendors beyond what they've been selling lately. And if they can really expand Anchor, boy, this is going to be huge for them, for Anchor, don't you think?
Yeah, Anchor, correct me if I'm wrong, but Anchor had always been traditionally an Amazon-only
right.
seller.
Yeah.
So this is, you're right, this is going to be huge for them. I think what is really telling about this is that Apple has always been good about embracing third-party products, but they really only embrace third-party products that live up to their standards. And so that says a lot for the quality product that Anchor puts out there if Apple is willing to carry it in their stores.
Yeah, exactly. So good news. And I love to see all newer products at the Apple Store. But but Amazon, we love Amazon, don't we? We get better pricing. So,
hey, well, I will tell you, I purchased my Osmo Mobile 2.
Oh,
my DJI Osmo Mobile 2 a year ago. When I bought that a year ago, I bought it direct through Apple because Apple had better pricing than on Amazon.
Yeah, I bought it too. I got it for $129. It was I couldn't believe it when I saw it there. Yeah, I talked about that previous episodes. Yeah, it's so sometimes you find deals at Apple Store. You never know. Other thing I want to talk a little bit about was this is kind of news as well as part of the announcements from the last couple weeks was the AirPods and the PowerBeats. PowerBeats, there are the PowerBeats that they're just like the AirPods that go in your ear. They're more for athletics, and they have different sizing as far as the ear cups and all that stuff. And I've got a pair of those. They're nice. But Apple just released a PowerBeats Pro, a brand which it's got very similar to what the AirPods do, but a little bit more of a focus on fitness and working out rather than everyday use. Got an article on Mac Rumors that kind of did a comparison. I'm not sure if you're familiar with either one of these. Do you have AirPods, Mike?
I am familiar with both, but I don't own either.
Okay.
I am pretty excited about this because I love the design of the PowerBeats Pro, much more so than the design of the AirPods.
Yeah, and also the PowerBeats have a cord. I've got the PowerBeats, the previous one I'm holding them in my hands now, looking at them. They have an actual cord that connects between the two AirPods that go into your ears. These are true wireless. So
true wireless, yeah.
Just like an AirPod does. You don't have any cord to deal with. It's all wireless into both your ears, and being able to adjust. And you're right, exactly. That's the biggest challenge people have with AirPods is it doesn't fit in your ear. My wife, I got her a pair. We had to get some of those third-party clips so it stays on her ear. So a lot of times it just doesn't work. So they did some comparisons like sound differences. They do see a little bit of differences in sound. Really, what they're saying, I think, I guess the bottom line with this is the fact that it's everyday use, which is what the AirPods are aimed for, whereas fitness, which is what the PowerBeats Pro ones are. So the cases are a little different in processor speed and having a Siri support. Very similar. It's got the H1 chip in both. So, and that was one of the big things. I have the AirPods 1, so I have the first gen. I have no rhyme or reason really to upgrade, because really the only difference that you're getting is a smidge difference with the chip and being able to say, hey, you girl, with
you girl,
and you have to tap it on the old version, whereas the new one you can just say it like you can on your iPhone, as well as the Beats do that as well. So battery life is a little more extended on both, and they seem to work. And there's a good comparison chart, which I'll link, I said, in the show notes about what it does. But I'm glad to see there's be a little bit of a competitor to AirPods, and they're competing with themselves. So it's both Apple's products. So
well, from my perspective, this is a big competitor for the AirPods. This is actually one of those stories that made me kind of sit up and pay attention, because there are so many things about the PowerBeats Pro that I kind of wish the AirPods had. Some things I don't really care all that much about, but they come in different colors. Right. They come in black. They do offer noise isolation, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And one thing that I really noticed when I read the articles about it is that the battery life on the PowerBeats Pro is, I think, almost double the AirPods.
Right. Yeah.
Now they're bigger. They're a little bit bigger, so there's room for a larger battery and things like that in it. But they're, you're talking something like 9 hours of battery life on those. That's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, it is.
And they are more expensive. They're $250, I think.
So they'll tack close to $100 more for the wired charging model. I believe these are. Did it say they are wirelessly charged? The PowerBeats. The
PowerBeats are not. No, they can't do Qi charging. No,
they're charged within the case. You just have to plug it.
Right.
I knew that was going to get me. My wife's iPad has it turned on. Let me turn this off and mute this, or turn it off, or do something to it. But yeah, it is pretty awesome that they that they came out with these. I'm very pleased to see something of a competitor to this. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they sound. I want to check them out and see what they sound like. But I'm such a junkie with headphones. I have my Beats headsets I'm using as I speak here. I have the Bose QC35s. I've got the AirPods. So I think I'm pretty set on an earwear for for listening to music and doing podcasts.
You would hate all the earbuds and earphones I have sitting around in front of me right now. You would hate the ones I'm using. I'll tell you that.
You get the lower end ones, or
they were like $5 on Amazon, and pretty good sound on them. They are wired. I have to admit they are wired, but they have wood sound chambers on them. So that's supposed to. It doesn't, but it's supposed to give you better, deeper, richer sounds.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Hey, for $5, I'm pretty darn happy with them.
Oh yeah, why not? Meanwhile, the ones I just mentioned, you just know how much I've spent on those. So, well,
yes, I do.
Actually, the other ones I got free when I bought my MacBook Pro, so I guess I can't complain.
I will admit I do have some really nice headphones too for podcasting and things like that. But what I'm wearing right now are just some cheapos. But yeah, it runs the gamut depending on what your needs are, of course.
Yeah. So other thing I wanted to take a look at, Mac Rumors actually posted a link from iFixit.com. They did share a teardown of the resurrected iPad Air and confirmed the specs that was in it. No surprises. It has about the identical thickness of the 10 and 10.5 inch iPad Pro, but a little lighter weight. It's got the A12 processor, and they saw that was 3 gigs of RAM. I'm telling you, that iPad is a pretty good bargain. I mean, comparatively speaking of what the price is, versus, of course, the lower end model, which doesn't have as much oomph as this one. Have you taken a look at this at all with this iPad?
Not in person, but the specs are great on it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I'm pretty darn happy, and I would even say impressed with that $329 iPad.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last week, last episode. Yeah,
it's quote unquote low end, but hey, it's a perfect consumption device to just sit there on your coffee table, and,
sure.
and as it is, it's a 10.5 inch iPad Pro that's on my coffee table that I'm using.
Yeah.
But that has another function in life, and that's to control the cameras at MacStock. So that's
there you go.
There's an actual reason for having the iPad Pro in that case.
And I mentioned this before. I haven't checked Amazon lately. They were selling that low end iPad for $249.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow, that's a steal.
That's a total bargain. I haven't looked as of yet, but. I keep telling people check it out there. It's well worth its investment. So,
absolutely.
So one more story I wanted to lead, which will lead into the first discussion I'd like to talk about, is the News Plus app. Is the subscriber numbers. There was an article in Mac Rumors that over 200,000 people have already subscribed to the Apple News Plus in the first 48 hours after it was launched. I would probably be one included. So, of course, Mike, unfortunately, you weren't able to do this because you don't have 12.2 as of yet.
No, not yet.
But they, of course, it's rumors, so it came from unnamed sources. So it sounds about legitimate to me. And that was more than one the texture service the Apple News Plus is based on had during its peak. So Apple's name has a lot to drive, I tell you. And including all the 200 magazines and the Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, it's definitely interesting going to be to see where this goes with magazines. I'll give you my experiences in a minute, but did you have any thoughts about this at all?
No, we did talk about this briefly on the Reaction Time episode last week. Quite honestly, this doesn't really flip my trigger all that much.
Sure.
I don't read a whole lot of magazines as it is, and the ones I do read, I tend to subscribe to. And yes, I get print versions of them. And I think I specifically mentioned Wired last week. And the reason I subscribe to Wired, it's a little like why some folks subscribe to the print edition of National Geographic. It's not so much about. It is about the content. The content's great, but it's also about the experience. And there's something about the high quality covers that they put on Wired and National Geographic, and the high quality print and paper that they use, that just makes reading it a pleasure versus just merely absorbing the content through, a glass and LCD display. So, that's a higher end magazine. And then the other magazines I subscribe to are actually imports from the UK. So I subscribe to Linux magazine and a magazine called Net. And both of those come over here from the UK. And I like getting the print editions of them. And that's what I get. And it's really not that much cheaper to get the digital version. So I get that, but that's about it. I think I still somewhere get Mac Life.
Yep, I do.
Magazine.
I just renewed it, actually.
That. Yeah.
Shout out to the Mac Life folks, because I got a nice email. They said, of course, it's automated, but we're so happy to have you as a subscriber, because it's subscribed for 2 more years. But
which is actually that's the same publishing company that publishes the 2 UK magazines. It's Future Publishing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And they put out some fantastic tech magazines. I don't get a whole lot of magazines, and having extra content just for the sake of having that content doesn't necessarily appeal to me.
Yeah.
But I get it. There's a lot of folks who love to sit there and absorb all the stories and all the different viewpoints from all the different magazines, and that's great. And something like News Plus is perfect for that.
Yeah, and that would be me, because I love absorbing content, and I'm starting to fall in love with this. The magazines you just mentioned are in News Plus. I just added them to my list. Net and Linux Format. That's probably the one that you subscribe to.
Yep. Yes, it is.
And then, of course, they have Mac versions of their Mac Format, and that one is out there as well. And really, I think they did an amazing job with this app. It's crisp. It's got super easy navigation. You mentioned Wired magazine. I'm looking at the latest issues that's got the cow on the front cover. I don't know if you have that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing the cow as you move it. It's in 3D. It moves around, and then of course the Wired logo is like going in and out like a TV's screen. So they're doing pretty cool animations in a lot of these magazines. I think National Geographic did the same thing. Their cover had cities. I believe that was shown during the event, showing how 3D worked and what they've done with this. And I think the app itself was really nicely organized. Before I wasn't as much of a heavy user for it, but the nice thing is you can add all of these different feeds that are in the news app, including the Wall Street Journal, which you do. I'm still questioning what you have access to. I think you have access to most of the stuff, but not all of it. I think that the paywall that Wall Street Journal has is they want you to subscribe. So I think what they really did was they added this to Apple News Plus just to tease and get people to look at most of their content, but a lot of the other good content tends to, you don't see it. And of course, they didn't get the New York Times or the Washington Post, and there were articles about that saying that they tried to, but it just didn't work out. So, have you used the News app at all, even before the News Plus came out?
I did a little bit. I didn't find the experience particularly good.
No.
It seems as if we talked about this last week. It seems as if the News app doesn't quite curate the news I'm looking for as well as something like Flipboard does.
Flipboard, yep.
Flipboard is they're both human curated,
right?
But it seems to be a little bit better about suggesting content that I'm looking for, as does the Google News app, which is not really a news app itself. It's more the Google app, really, where you tell the types of interests that you have, and then it magically pulls up stories about Star Trek and the Marvel movies and DC movies coming out and tech news. And the Google one that's freaky in how accurate it is in terms of presenting content that I'm looking for. Sure. But, for regular news, I tend to turn to BBC News.
Oh, okay.
I get the RSS feeds off their website, or I get the RSS feeds off of other international news sources. And that's where I try to get the news that's international news or U.S. news, because I like to get that outside perspective. I like to hear what others are saying about the news that's happening in the U.S.
Sure.
I do, of course, to pull up some U.S. news sources, but I tend to get most of my U.S. and international news from outside the country.
Yeah,
I use RSS for that.
And I just added the BBC News to the News app, and it actually doesn't have a bad interface with it too. So, but no, that's what's great about having different apps out there. The News Plus part, and then it's you get a free month trial when you sign up. So I'm on my free month trial right now, but it does cost $9.99 a month. But if you think about that, like I said, I don't have as much of a problem with not having a print versions of magazines. A lot of magazines are not printing anymore. You look at PC Magazine, you look at Macworld, you look at many of the others. They stopped. They're electronic only, digital only. So that's kind of the trend of where things are. But that's why. But I like Mac Life, and that's why I subscribe to it as with the print issue. But then I will have also access to the digital issue too. So. But it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. If Apple had that much interest, but of course it's the first month for free for everybody. So let's see where it's at after that, where it goes. But everything from business to entertainment to technology to cars, to food, health. I mean, there's just so many different topics of different news and magazines that you can get access to. I'll be interested to see if any newspapers come on board beyond the Wall Street Journal and the Los Angeles Times. I'd like to see them jump into a little bit more too. So
I imagine they will, but I totally envision the scenario being much the same as it is with Washington Post, right? With the Washington Post, in that it's going to be limited content. They can't be asking people to subscribe for, I think the Washington Post is $40 a month for all their news, something like that.
Yeah, might be less.
And
than
then,
that,
is it? Okay. And then say, all right, for $10 a month, of which a mere fraction comes our way, we're going to still give you all the same news content. I just don't see that happening. I do see them saying, oh, okay, for the fraction that we're getting of this $10 a month you're paying Apple, we're going to give you X amount of stories for free that you would otherwise need to pay for. And I think most newspapers are in the order of you can read 3 stories or something like that.
Right.
Never mind that you can reset your cookies and read more stories. But, you can read so many stories and then you have to pay. And I imagine that that's what most newspapers are, that's the relationship they're going to have with Apple. Yeah. And they'll just say, okay, well, rather than stopping you at 3 stories, we'll stop you at 10 stories, or we'll stop you at 20 stories, or whatever it is. It'll be something more than you get from the free site, but it won't be the full content like it would be if you subscribe directly to them. I just don't see how that would be a tenable arrangement.
Yeah, I agree with you. So check out the News Plus app. I say you could subscribe from your iPad. The iPad is just an amazing experience. Especially I've got the iPad Pro 11-inch. You see it. Reading these magazines is just a joy. I mean, I've had a lot of magazines in PDF format, and the PDFs look good too. But this they did good things with it. It even looks great on the iPhone. Of course, I have the XS Max. That helps having a bigger screen, but
it helps a little bit.
But it does have a good experience. I even tried it on some of the smaller screens, and it's a good experience. So check it out. The other thing Apple announced was the Apple Card, the credit card. Were you surprised at that at all? That they announced that at all?
A little bit. I would have been more surprised if Apple announced that they were going to become a bank.
Yeah.
And really that's not what happened. Basically, as we talked about, they didn't announce that they are themselves going to become a bank that's standing behind this. They're instead working with a financial institution to give you this card. So in a way, it's a lot like the relationships that other companies have with credit cards, like Disney has with Chase, or other organizations have with I don't know, who are the other ones out there.
With bank? You mean with credit cards?
Yeah, Chase. Well, you get your reward cards and things like that.
Chase, Bank of America, Citi.
That's the other one I was trying to think of. Yeah. So it in a way it's very much the same type of relationship, but what's very different about it, is that the entity, in this case Apple, that's asking the financial institution to provide these cards to its customers is the one wagging the dog.
Yep.
Right? Apple is setting the terms by which they will allow them to issue cards to Apple's customers. And that's the one thing Apple does better than anyone else, is saying, look, this is the way we want it to work. And if you're not willing to work with us, we'll find someone else who is.
Yep.
And there's a lot of benefits to companies that are willing to work with them in that regard. By the way, I just updated my phone to 12.2 while we were talking, so that I can check out some of this stuff.
I twisted your arm.
You twisted my arm, and I'm going to check out some of the stuff. I'll check out the news app and things like that, but not while we're talking. I'll check it out later because I don't want to be distracted by this. But right. Yes, I had to see what you were talking about. So
I'm glad I had a little influence on you. But yeah, the credit card is going to be interesting. It's through Goldman Sachs, which is a pretty reputable bank. And signing up is going to be very easy. You do it right from the phone, which is cool. I just want that card. I have that card, my titanium card in my wallet. Come on. It'll look like some class. I have an Apple credit card in my wallet. It's going to be interesting to see how that card looks.
It's like having one of Steve Wozniak's metal business cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I want it.
Or Adam Christensen, he had some special cards too that he was giving out to people, to his supporters. Yeah,
I'm still waiting for it. I'm a supporter. he's still making some new ones, but yes. So they're they're pretty cool cards. If you take a look on Apple's website, they do show it pretty proudly. So, let's kind of just step away and let's do some tips and talk a few things. I'm gonna run some tips here. You may not even know I'm gonna talk about here yet, but I wanted to throw some tips out here, so because that's what people want to listen to here is learn a few things about what they can do with their devices. One of them that caught my eye was how you're able to access the keypad and to change the audio output during an Apple Watch call. You make phone calls on your Apple Watch at all?
I don't make calls. I receive calls.
And
too. It's fantastic. I love that feature. It's your hands-free distracted driving without needing to purchase yet another piece of equipment to run in your car, which, by the way, never worked well for me in the first place. And yet the Apple Watch works perfectly for doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So during an actual Apple Watch call, what you can do is you actually can swipe from the bottom when the call's on there. It'll bring up a second menu. Then the menu will show two options: the keypad or audio. You can tap keypad, and then that opens up the keypad. If you need the option, like maybe you're connected and you need to type in the numbers, you could do it from your watch. And then audio, you could switch the audio from your Apple Watch to any other nearby connected devices by tapping audio, and then you may have like a Bluetooth device or maybe your AirPods or something. You have that option right there to switch. I didn't even know this, and that's why it caught my eye here that you have access to those two things during a call.
I did not know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Although, like I said, in my case, I usually use it when I'm driving, so that would then fall into the distracted driving category. So I probably would not end up doing it.
True.
But I do like being able to pass calls from the watch to my phone.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When I'm done taking that call and I'm at a place where I can use the phone, being able to pass it over is really slick and, of course, very Apple-like that you can pass it back and forth like that.
No, yeah, I've done that many times. So it's great. I mean, again, Apple Watch phone calls are not private, so you have to proceed with caution how you want to use it. I mean, if it's somewhere that you're in a room, you're in private, just like using a speakerphone. Why not? And everybody says that the Apple Watch's speaker on the when you talk to people. I mean, I've had conversations with people, and it sounds great. I'm very impressed with what they've done with that. I'm sure people have told you that as well when you've talked to them.
Well, not only does it sound great to you, the person who's using the watch, but it turns out it actually sounds really good to the people on the other side, too.
That's what I meant.
Because I've questioned a lot of folks afterwards, or I've told them, I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm talking to you on my watch. So, and they're like, really? It sounds perfect. It sounds like you're talking on a regular phone. And I'm blown away by that.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by the fact how good the call sounds on the other end. When I went out, like I said, and I purchased this expensive, it wasn't cheap at all, expensive Bluetooth device for my car, and I could never get it to work well.
Yep.
And now to have this watch on my wrist, and I can just sit there, resting my chin on my hand and talk to people, is just amazing.
Yeah. And check that out. It's a great tip, and it's a great way to use your Apple Watch. Other one that caught my eye was how to leave a group text on your iPhone. You ever been in group text and you get tired of those texts going back and forth all the time? I have. Have you?
I've been I don't get in too many group texts, and part of there's a reason for it, and that's because people don't know my iMessage phone number.
Okay.
They know my Google Voice number, and that one's somewhat limited in what can be done. But
sure.
I do occasionally get into them. And then, yes, when people forget that you're in that group text and you keep getting text, even if they don't intend for them to go to you any longer, or they pull up an old conversation, they just see the first name and they're like, oh, I want to send the person, this person a text. And they're actually resending it to everybody that was in that group text. Yeah, gets to be a problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, easy way to do this is when you open up messages, then you open up the group text that you want to leave. Then you tap at the top ahead of the conversation to where the initial bubbles are. Of course, this only applies to people who are iPhone users, so using iMessage. And then once you get past the bubbles, you just tap the info icon. And then towards the bottom, there's a choice there. Leave this conversation. And then it pops up again. Are you sure? And then you tap done. You're gone. Then no more texts that are coming through. They'll drive you crazy with group texts because sometimes you're done with the conversation. You don't want to deal with it anymore. So it's always a good thing. So last tip I wanted to talk about a little bit was my experience. Were you familiar? And I've talked about this on previous episodes, but I actually went through it. Is the eSIM? The eSIM is now in the iPhone 10s, the 10s Max, and the 10R. Mm-hmm. Were you familiar with this at all? eSIMs?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm familiar with them. I don't use one. It's not in the 8 Plus, is it?
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, I don't use them.
I was itching once I found out that this was in the 10s Max. So I'm on T-Mobile as my carrier. So it does have dual SIM cards. So basically, it's going to be the eSIM, which is an electronic SIM that's built into the phone, and then you have the physical SIM that would go into the device. What's great about being on the eSIM now, if I decide I want to travel somewhere overseas and I decide, I want to have this my primary phone as well as that secondary carrier, let's say in Italy, I can put in, get a local SIM from that country and be able to have two phone numbers working on the phone at the same time, which I think is pretty cool. But as far as setting it up goes, it was pretty flawless for the most part. So what the carrier is going to do is the carrier will send you to activate the second plan is you scan a QR code that the carrier will provide you. Well, in the case of T-Mobile, I was not making this as a second line. I was making this as my primary line because I don't want to use that other SIM anymore. I want to use the eSIM. So they had to actually send me a URL to click on the phone over wireless to activate it. So then you go in and you open up the settings once you do that. Tap add cellular plan, and then you either scan the QR code or do the URL like I mentioned, and then you have to manually enter any of the information as far as that goes. Sometimes your carrier may have an app. In the case of T-Mobile, they do, but the app was only used for the prepaid phones. But I don't know if I want to be doing prepaid service on a really expensive iPhone XS Max. So I have a monthly phone. So they did allow me to be able to transfer the number from my nano SIM to the eSIM pretty flawlessly, and now my phones are running on the eSIM. So I think it's pretty cool.
And you have two numbers, right? Or did you not keep the other SIM?
No, the other SIM was my primary number originally. So they just moved it. So that SIM's no longer valid. So now I can get another SIM from like I take my wife's phone, let's say, or if I have a secondary line, I can put that SIM in there, whether it be T-Mobile. I'm not trying it with different carriers. That would be interesting to see if you could do that. I don't think you could because it's. You might be able to do like AT&T, T-Mobile since they're both on the GSM band, but. Why would I have an AT&T line, right?
You should be able to port from one carrier to another and stick with eSIM, I would think.
In fact, no, I take that back. You can because the Google phone you can do that because it has the eSIM as well. Right. Android and
the Pixel 3,
and the Pixel 2, and the Pixel 2, which I've played with. You can have Google Fi for one of your carriers, and then you could have. T-Mobile as your other carrier as the nano SIM. So I think you could. I probably could put Google Fi in my iPhone if I wanted to. Just get one of their SIM cards that they are providing for iPhones now, and you could have that as well. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So those are some of the tips I want to throw out. What I want to talk about now is I've got the organizer and the master of all trades here with MacStock. And MacStock is now in its 5th year, right? It's
Fifth year.
Fifth year. I can't believe it. I met you 5 years ago. You got the first edition of MacStock off the ground in, what was it, 8 to 10 weeks? Was it?
Yeah, it was something more like 6 to 7 weeks.
Was it 6 to 7 weeks? Okay, I was being generous.
You were being very generous.
And we were able to get that off, and I enjoyed that first year doing my presentation. You and I became good friends. And I've met a lot more friends as well. And I've also met Barry Falk and Chuck Joyner and Allison Sheridan. And I've got all these new friends now because of MacStock. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about MacStock in itself and what your thoughts are, and why should everybody be going to MacStock this year?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Dave. Talking about the networking, talking about meeting new friends. When I go back and I reflect on new podcasts that have started up, new friendships that have formed, people that have joined other podcasts or other shows, or just gotten into totally new non-podcast related ventures. I mean, I don't want this to sound like it's a podcast thing. It's not. It's more about the Apple community. And seeing the bonds that have formed over these past 5 years has just been, oh my gosh, it's been so incredibly gratifying to me, because that is really what's kind of at the heart, at the core of this Apple conference is the bonds and friendships that form. But then, the other thing that's important to me about MacStock is the kind of the educational side of things. And that sounds a little dry, it sounds a little boring, but when you hear the people who present, when you hear Allison Sheridan and Chuck Joyner and David Sparks, who's going to be presenting this year, or Kelly Gumont, who presented last year. These are all exciting, dynamic, fun people to hear give talks. And, it's not this kind of boring droning from the stage. It's actually interacting with the folks who are there, and then taking it a step further and continuing to interact and learn and grow from the conversations you have in the hallways at MacStock. So, that's another big part of it. I mean, you can't have a conference without learning new stuff. And as I talk to people, they say, you know what, you got a fantastic lineup of speakers. And if I can just learn one or two great new things this weekend, it will have been a successful weekend for me. So, really, every year we just kind of take it a little bit further than we have the year before and try something new. And one of the new things I started last year was theming it. Last year, MacStock was themed to productivity. I thought we had a fantastic weekend. We had a lot of great talks, all kind of, fitting within that theme of productivity. And this year, the theme is create. And what I've asked speakers, including you, Dave, because you're going to be joining again from the stage this year.
I'm so excited.
I know it's another good one too. Haven't announced the actual talks yet. I'm making my way through announcing the speakers. So
I'm waiting for everybody to be excited. When you can announce them.
This is we're building up to something really cool here, because we got a lot of really fantastic talks. But one of the things I tasked speakers with this year is to take that notion of create, and in your talk, take a topic that you're knowledgeable about, take a topic that you're passionate about, and try to figure out what it means to be creative with that topic, how to think differently, if you will, how to be innovative. What new ways are there to accomplish these tasks that you're talking about? What new ways are there to save time? What new ways are there to express yourself creatively while you're getting the most from whatever it is you're talking about, whether it be software or hardware or what have you? So that's the theme for this year. But then we have some other cool things too. And by the way, we have 14 presenters this year. When I first, I first announced MacStock 2019 on Chuck Joyner's Road to MacStock on Mac Voices. And at that time, I had said we have 8 speakers. We've grown to 14 presenters.
That's awesome.
And it's just going to be a phenomenal weekend. So not only do we have all those great talks, and by the way, the talks that are given at MacStock, they are for everyone. This isn't a professional conference. It's not an amateur conference. If you're a beginner, if you're an expert, MacStock is for you. It's for everybody who's a user of these products. So we've got all these fantastic talks designed for everybody of all skill levels, but we also have something new this year that one of our past presenters, Wally Truinski, came up to me. He's given 3 great talks entitled Video to Go 1, 2, and 3 over the years. And he came up to me and he said, what if we do a MacStock Film Fest? You know, basically taking his Video to Go presentation to the next level, because now it's not just him telling people how to make the most of their iPhones or their iPads or what have you, iMovie or Final Cut Pro or whatever. It's not just him telling you how to use this stuff. It's us asking the attendees to create something new, something innovative, something different, a little, 1 to 2 minute film that was shot or edited on a Mac or an iPhone, and submit it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have a little film fest. It's not a contest. There's no wagering.
Oh, it's fun.
But it's going to be fun. And I just talked to Wally today, as a matter of fact, and we have 13 entries already.
That's awesome.
And we're only a couple months into it. So we still have, I think, somewhere on the order of just shy of 120 days until MacStock. So imagine all the great Film Fest submissions we're going to get.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
So there's that. We got the Film Fest. We got the talks. And then on top of that, Dave,
food.
We have Mac Power Users episode 500.
Yep. And
it just so happened that episode 500 was going to take place right around the time of MacStock. And David Sparks rang me up and he said, Mike, what do you think about us doing episode 500 of Mac Power Users live at MacStock? And I said,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Mac Power Users 500 that's happening Saturday night as well.
That's going to be
fun. So it's just going to be a great weekend. And so far I've announced so many great speakers. We've got you, of course, I already mentioned that. We've got you, we've got Allison Sheridan, we've got David Sparks, we've got Brett Terpstra, and then we have a lot of other favorites too, like Mike Schmitz. We have Kirsten Thea, who she's coming back again. Now, she didn't speak last year, but she spoke in the years prior to that.
Right.
We have Rosemary Orchard, who's going to be joining us again. Not joining us again, joining us for the first time, not only as an attendee, but as a presenter too.
And she's from the UK, isn't she?
She is from Austria.
Oh, Austria,
actually.
that's right.
Yep. So she's joining us from Austria, which is amazing. We have Josh Wrench, who's going to be coming, and he's not a first-time attendee, but he's a first-time presenter at MacStock.
Yep.
And Rick Cartwright, who also has been attending all these years and submitted a fantastic talk and got accepted as well. So those are just the speakers who've been announced, and I still have, I think, like 5 more to go. Yeah, so I'm going to be rolling those out over the next day. I mentioned Allison Sheridan; she's going to be there again this year too.
We love Allison.
But rolling out the rest of the speakers over the next couple days. So, yeah, it's a fun weekend, and I think everyone who comes is going to have a absolutely fantastic time.
Make sure you go to MacStock2019.com and go to register right away. Get the registration. You got a 2-day weekend pass, and like Mike said, it includes everything as far as speakers, networking. You'll have meals for both days. We have the Midwest Mac Mingle hosted by our very own Barry Falk. He's got some great things. He was just on Chuck's show too for Mac Voices. Check him out. He gave some good details of what's going on with his fun between throughout the week and the weekend. But the one thing is, if you're an In Touch with iOS listener, you can get a $10 discount on your ticket. Now, if you go to register now and put it in the cart, and then it says a coupon code, you're going to put the coupon code in touch. And if you do that and click apply, you're going to get a $10 discount, bringing it down to $169. That is such a bargain. I'm not just spouting out because I love MacStock, but I think this is going to be something that's beneficial for you. I do love MacStock, but
well, not only that, Dave, it's not just $10 off. Keep in mind, that's $10 off the early bird price.
Early bird price, yes.
So the early bird price is already reduced to $179. So that's $70 off. So with your coupon code, people are going to get that extra $10 off the early bird pricing. So it's really a special deal for anyone who's listening and wants to use that code.
So please use the code INTOUCH, and you won't regret it. And we would love to see you out there. I wanted to meet some new friends out there, and I've met some good folks. I can get some got some good folks that were there last year, and their friends as well. And I get emails from folks that has been out there. Stephen from Saratoga Springs. He's been emailing me a lot, and I know he's a listener, so appreciate your support, Stephen.
Did you see his Apple birthday email he sent out?
I did. I did.
He's awesome. See, talk about someone who's perfect for the MaxTech Film Fest.
Yes.
He creates these nice little videos. I think he uses clips.
Yeah, I talked about the clip. I use the Talk About the Clips app here,
and they're really clever, really fun. Yeah. And he sent me one the other day, and I told him, I said, he happened to use some Disney references, and I said, anytime someone uses a Disney reference in a clip like that, you've got my attention. And he sent me back a thank you one with Mickey right in it.
That was great.
He does some really cool stuff with that.
But I just want to let everybody know about MaxTalk. I mean, there's going to be a lot of discussion about iOS, about iPad and iPhone. My talk is going to be that centric because that's what I like to focus on. I love iOS and I love iPhone products and iPads and everybody does. That's going to be at this at MaxTalk, and we love Apple and we love this, and it's going to be a nice cozy conference. It's not the conferences that have 10, 20,000 people. It's just a nice cozy conference, and you'll get all the speakers will be approachable. You'll be able to talk to them, ask questions, and we just would love to have you there. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate you being here, and we always have a lot of fun when we do our podcast here together. And tell the folks where they can find you beyond MaxTalk and all that fun stuff.
Oh, well, thank you, Dave. This was a lot of fun. And I was going to say, what, you're doing an iOS talk? Really?
Surprise.
Well, let's see. When I'm not on your show, you folks can find me at 4MacGuysOnly.com. That would be my podcast. And also, of course, MaxTalk2019.com. That's, that MaxTalk wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Mac Guys Only and the wonderful community of listeners that I built up there. And I just really appreciate all the support I've had throughout the years, and that's what made MaxTalk possible. Yep. So MaxTalk 2019, and both of those places have contact pages. So if you want to chat with me about anything, reach out, and I'm always available.
Yep, and I'm on your show from time to time as well. So
that's right.
Love being on your show as well. So you got me started doing this thing, and look what happened.
Sorry about that.
No, don't be, because I love it. I think everybody knows that. So I hope everybody enjoyed listening today. This was a great episode, but let's wrap it up here. That is a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow me on Twitter at intouchwithios. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. Or better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links are there to listen to us. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can also find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Again, thank you, Mike Potter, for being here today.
My pleasure. Always great to be here.
Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.